Title: Whispers of Eldergrove, Chapter 1. The mist clung to Eldergrove like a living thing, weaving through the narrow streets and whispering secrets to anyone who would listen. Lanterns flickered bravely against the encroaching shadows, casting a golden glow that danced across the cobblestones, worn smooth by countless footsteps. In the heart of this mist-shrouded village stood the Eldergrove Inn, a beacon of warmth amidst the ethereal chill. Alara Morrigan moved with practiced grace through the inn's common room, her silver-streaked hair catching the light in soft, shimmering waves. Her eyes, pools of wisdom and mystery, surveyed the room with a gentle authority. She paused to adjust a flickering candle on a nearby table, her fingers brushing against the aged wood as if communing with the inn itself. "Alara," called a familiar voice from the corner. It was Lysandra Hawthorne, the village seer, seated in her usual spot by the window. Her gaze was distant, lost in the swirling mists beyond the glass. "Lysandra," Alara greeted warmly, approaching her friend. "What do you see today?" Lysandra's eyes refocused, meeting Alara's with a knowing smile. "The same as always, whispers on the wind and shadows that danced just out of reach." Alara chuckled softly, pulling up a chair to join her. "And yet you never tire of watching." "Nor do you tire of listening," Lysandra countered, her tone teasing yet affectionate. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of the inn's door creaking open. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the misty backdrop. He paused in the doorway, his presence commanding attention even in stillness. Alara's heart skipped a beat. The newcomer was not unfamiliar. Gideon, a traveler whose arrival had set tongues wagging throughout Eldergrove. His eyes, an unsettling shade of blue, seemed to pierce through layers of reality, seeing far more than what lay on the surface. "Welcome," Alara said, rising to greet him. "You found your way back." Gideon nodded, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. "The road led me here again," he replied, his voice smooth and resonant. Alara gestured toward an empty seat near the hearth. "Sit, warm yourself." As Gideon settled into the chair, Alara felt a familiar stir within her, a symphony of forgotten memories and emotions awakening at his presence. She busied herself with preparing tea, seeking solace in the ritual as she gathered her thoughts. The room was silent, save for the crackling fire and the soft clink of porcelain as Alara set down a steaming cup before Gideon. He accepted it with a nod of thanks, cradling it between his hands as if drawing warmth from its depths. Lysandra watched them both with quiet interest, her fingers tracing patterns on the table's surface. "What brings you back to Eldergrove?" she asked Gideon, her voice gentle yet probing. He met her gaze evenly. "Curiosity," he replied simply, "and perhaps something more." Alara felt a shiver run down her spine at his words, a tantalizing promise wrapped in mystery. She glanced at Lysandra, who returned her look with an expression that spoke volumes. "Curiosity can be dangerous here," Lysandra warned lightly, though there was no malice in her tone. Gideon smiled faintly, an enigmatic curve of his lips. Danger has its own allure. Alara found herself drawn into their exchange, feeling as though she were on the brink of something profound yet elusive. The air around them seemed to hum with anticipation, each word spoken like a note in an unfinished melody. Before she could respond, Branwen Thistlewood entered the inn, her presence as ethereal as ever. The villagers often spoke of Branwen in hushed tones, calling her the Keeper of Whispers, a title she wore with quiet dignity. "Good evening," Branwen greeted, her voice carrying an otherworldly lilt that resonated in the room. "Branwen," Alara acknowledged warmly. "Join us." The herbalist nodded, taking a seat beside Lysandra. Her eyes flicked to Gideon with an intensity that suggested recognition of something unspoken. "You've returned," Branwen remarked to him, her tone laden with meaning. Gideon's gaze held hers for a moment before he replied, "It seems I have." Branwen's lips quirked into a knowing smile. "The spirits are restless tonight." Alara watched the interplay between them, aware of the layers beneath their words, an intricate dance of understanding that defied explanation. She felt an urge to delve deeper into these mysteries that surrounded them all, yet hesitated at the precipice of such revelations. "Restless spirits and curious travelers," Alara mused aloud, breaking the silence. "Eldergrove is alive with stories tonight, and we are but threads in its tapestry." Lysandra added softly, As their conversation continued, Alara felt an undeniable connection forming between them, a shared journey into uncharted territory where love and danger walked hand in hand. The night wore on, shadows lengthening across the walls as the fire burned low. Yet within Eldergrove Inn's embrace, time seemed to pause, a suspended moment where past and present intertwined like lovers in an eternal waltz. As Alara looked around at those gathered, each bearing their own secrets and desires, she knew that this was only the beginning. The arrival of Gideon had stirred something deep within Eldergrove's heart, a mystery waiting to unfold. And so she listened to whispers on the wind and shadows that danced just out of reach, knowing that every silence spoke volumes and every word carried the weight of eternity. In this place where love defied boundaries and stories wove themselves into reality's fabric, Ilara felt both exhilarated and apprehensive about what lay ahead. For in Eldergrove, a village steeped in magic and memory, every arrival marked a new chapter in its timeless tale. Chapter 2. Alara Morrigan stood at the threshold of the Eldergrove Inn, the mist curling around her like a lover's embrace. The air was thick with the scent of lavender, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp cobblestones. She watched as the village came alive with its usual spectral dance, shadows flickering in the lantern light, whispering secrets only the night could hold. Inside, the inn buzzed with the low murmur of conversation. Villagers and travelers alike were drawn to the warmth of the hearth, their voices weaving a tapestry of stories both old and new. Ilara moved through the room with practiced grace, her presence a soothing balm to those who sought refuge within these storied walls. She paused by the grand fireplace, where Lysandra Hawthorne sat in quiet contemplation. The village seer's eyes were closed, her lips moving in a silent incantation. Alara felt the familiar tug of curiosity and concern, aware that Lysandra's visions had been growing more fragmented since Gideon's arrival. "Lysandra," Alara said softly, taking a seat beside her. "What do you see tonight?" Lysandra opened her eyes, their depths swirling with mysteries untold. "The shadows are restless," she replied, her voice a melodic whisper. "Gideon's presence stirs echoes of a past we've yet to unravel." Alara nodded, her thoughts drifting to the enigmatic traveler who had unsettled the village's delicate equilibrium. Gideon's eyes seemed to pierce through layers of reality, awakening something deep within her, a symphony of forgotten memories and emotions that refused to be ignored. "He is unlike any other," Alara mused, her gaze distant. "There's a pull to him, something that defies explanation." Lysandra smiled faintly, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Love often dances on the edge of comprehension. It challenges us to embrace what we cannot see." Their conversation was interrupted by the creak of the inn's door. Gideon entered, his presence commanding yet unobtrusive. The room seemed to hold its breath as he approached Alara and Lysandra, his footsteps barely audible on the worn wooden floor. "Alara," Gideon greeted, his voice smooth as silk. "May I join you?" "Of course," Alara replied, gesturing to an empty chair. "We were just discussing the mysteries of this place." Gideon settled into his seat, his gaze flicking between the two women. "Eldergrove is a world unto itself," he said thoughtfully. "Its secrets are woven into every shadow." "And you?" Lysandra asked, her tone probing yet gentle. "What brings you to our village?" Gideon hesitated, a shadow passing over his features. "I'm searching for something," he admitted. "Or perhaps someone." Ilara felt a pang of recognition, sensing the weight of unspoken truths in his words. "We all seek something," she said quietly, "but Eldergrove has a way of revealing what we need rather than what we want." Their conversation continued into the night, each word carrying layers of meaning that resonated beyond their immediate understanding. As they spoke, Alara felt an undeniable connection forming between them, a thread woven from shared silences and unvoiced longings. When Gideon finally rose to leave, Alara accompanied him to the door. The night air was crisp and cool, wrapping around them like a shroud. "Thank you for your company," Gideon said, his voice a low murmur. Alara met his gaze, feeling the pull of something ancient and unyielding. "The pleasure was mine," she replied. "Eldergrove has many stories to tell." Gideon lingered for a moment longer, his eyes searching hers as if seeking answers to questions unasked. Then he nodded and disappeared into the mist, leaving Alara with a sense of anticipation that thrummed beneath her skin. As she returned to the inn's common room, Alara found Lysandra watching her with an inscrutable expression. "He is important," Lysandra said simply. Alara sighed, feeling the truth of those words settle into her bones. "I know," she admitted. Outside, the mist thickened, wrapping around Eldergrove like a spectral veil. The night was alive with possibilities, each shadow holding a secret waiting to be uncovered. Alara knew their journey was only beginning, a dance between past and present, seen and unseen, love and danger entwined in an eternal waltz. And as she moved through the inn's familiar halls, she felt a stirring within her soul, a promise of revelations yet to come. With every step, she embraced the mysteries that awaited them, knowing that each whispered word and shared silence would guide them deeper into the heart of Eldergrove's enigmatic embrace. Chapter 3. The mist lay thick over Eldergrove, weaving through the cobblestone streets like a silken shroud. Alara Morrigan stood at the threshold of the Eldergrove Inn, her eyes tracing the ethereal dance of fog as it curled around the ancient stones. The air was cool, carrying whispers that seemed to emerge from the very bones of the village. She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders and turned back into the inn. Inside, the warmth of the hearth greeted her, a welcome contrast to the chill outside. The scent of lavender tea mingled with the earthy aroma of aged wood, wrapping around her like an old friend. The common room was quiet, save for the crackling fire and the gentle murmur of conversation from a few lingering patrons. Alara's gaze settled on Gideon, seated in a shadowed alcove near the window. His presence had become a fixture in the inn, yet each day he seemed to unravel more of the mystery that surrounded him. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. A symphony of forgotten memories stirred within her, notes of longing and unease. "Alara," he called softly, his voice like velvet over stone. "Join me?" She hesitated, then nodded, moving toward him with a grace that belied her years. As she took a seat opposite him, she noticed the book open before him, its pages yellowed with age, filled with arcane symbols and cryptic prose. "What have you found today?" she asked, her voice low, mindful of the ears that might be listening. Gideon smiled, a fleeting expression that held both warmth and enigma. "More questions than answers, I'm afraid. This village holds secrets within secrets." "Eldergrove is a place where stories are woven into the very fabric of its existence," Alara replied. "It's not surprising that it keeps its truths well guarded." He leaned forward, his gaze never leaving hers. "And you? Do you guard your truths as fiercely?" Alara's heart skipped, his question cutting through her defenses with disarming precision. She offered a wry smile in response. "Perhaps I do, but in this village, who doesn't?" Their conversation was interrupted by the soft creak of the inn's door. Lysandra Hawthorne entered, her presence as enigmatic as ever. The village seer moved with an ethereal grace, her eyes holding the weight of countless visions and whispered prophecies. "Lysandra," Alara greeted warmly. "What brings you here tonight?" The seer smiled knowingly, her gaze flickering between Alara and Gideon. "The winds speak of change, Alara, and I find myself drawn to their whispers." Gideon's expression shifted subtly, curiosity piqued by Lysandra's words. "Change can be both a blessing and a curse," he mused. Lysandra nodded, taking a seat beside them. "True, but without change, there can be no growth." Alara watched them both, feeling the undercurrent of something significant passing between them, a connection that transcended words. She sensed that Lysandra saw something in Gideon that she herself had only begun to glimpse. As they spoke, Branwen Thistlewood's name surfaced in their conversation, a name synonymous with the deeper mysteries of Eldergrove. Branwen was known as the Keeper of Whispers, her cottage a sanctuary at the edge of the Whispering Woods. "I should visit Branwen," Alara mused aloud. "Her insights might illuminate some of what we seek." Lysandra nodded in agreement. "Yes, her understanding of the unseen is unparalleled." Gideon's eyes darkened with interest. "I've heard tales of Branwen. Her wisdom is said to transcend the boundaries of our world." "Indeed," Alara replied. "And if anyone can help us unravel these mysteries, it is she." Their decision made, Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose, a path unfolding before her like a tapestry woven with threads of fate and intuition. The following morning dawned with a muted light filtering through the mist. Alara set out for Branwen's cottage, accompanied by Gideon and Lysandra. The path wound through the village and into the woods, where ancient trees stood as silent sentinels. Branwen's cottage emerged from the mist like an apparition, ivy-clad and timeless. The air was rich with the scent of herbs and earth, an invitation to those who sought her counsel. Branwen greeted them at the threshold, her eyes a piercing green that seemed to see beyond their mortal forms. "Welcome," she intoned softly, stepping aside to let them enter. Inside, the cottage was a realm unto itself, a labyrinth of shelves lined with jars and bundles of dried herbs hanging from every rafter. It was a place where magic lingered in every corner. "Branwen," Alara began, "we seek your guidance." The Keeper of Whispers nodded slowly. "Eldergrove is alive with secrets," she said cryptically, "but not all are meant to be uncovered." Gideon stepped forward, his presence commanding yet respectful. "What can you tell us about this place, about its connection to us?" Branwen regarded him with an inscrutable gaze before responding. "Eldergrove is a crossroads between worlds, a place where past and present intertwine like lovers in an eternal dance." Her words resonated within Alara, echoing truths she had long felt but never fully understood. "And us?" Gideon pressed gently. Branwen smiled enigmatically. "You are both part of this dance, threads woven into its tapestry. Your journey here is no accident." Lysandra listened intently, absorbing each word as though it were a revelation. As their conversation continued, Alara felt an unspoken bond forming between them all, a shared understanding that transcended language. When they finally departed Branwen's cottage later that day, Alara carried with her a newfound sense of purpose, a clarity amidst uncertainty. The mist thickened once more as they returned to Eldergrove Inn, a reminder that while some mysteries might remain shrouded in secrecy forevermore, others awaited discovery just beyond reach. As night descended upon Eldergrove once more, Alara stood at her window gazing out into twilight world beyond, where shadows danced beneath flickering lanterns, casting warm, golden glow upon cobblestone streets below. Beside her stood Gideon, a presence both familiar yet mysterious, his eyes reflecting depths yet unexplored. Together they watched mist swirl around them, like spectral embrace, binding them closer still amidst ever-present enchantment surrounding them all. Chapter 4. The mist lay thick over Eldergrove, a silken veil that softened the edges of reality and dream alike. Alara Morrigan walked the cobblestone streets, her steps echoing faintly in the hushed air. Each footfall was a note in the village's ancient symphony, a melody played by countless souls before her. She paused at the edge of the village square, where the old well stood sentinel, its depths promising truths and lies in equal measure. Lysandra Hawthorne emerged from the shadows, her presence as familiar to Alara as the rhythm of her own heart. The village seer's eyes were bright with secrets, their depths unfathomable. "Alara," Lysandra greeted, her voice a whisper woven into the mist. "The air is heavy tonight." Alara nodded, her gaze drifting to the well. "It carries whispers from the past, doesn't it? As if every stone remembers." "Indeed," Lysandra replied, stepping closer, "and some stones speak louder than others." They stood in companionable silence, the mist swirling around them like a living thing. Alara felt the weight of unspoken words between them, a tension that had grown since Gideon's arrival. "Have you seen him?" Alara asked, breaking the quietude. Lysandra's lips curved into a mysterious smile. "He is not easily seen, even when he stands before you. But yes, I have sensed him." "And what do you make of him?" Lysandra's gaze turned inward, searching for truths only she could perceive. "He is a catalyst, Alara, a force that stirs the still waters of our village." Alara's heart quickened at the thought of Gideon. "And what does he stir within you?" "Questions," Lysandra admitted, "and perhaps answers yet to be understood." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant tolling of a bell, soft, resonant, calling them back to the inn. As they walked side by side, Alara felt the familiar pull of her responsibilities, yet something deeper tugged at her soul. Inside the Eldergrove Inn, warmth wrapped around them like an embrace. The scent of lavender tea mingled with the earthy aroma of burning wood from the grand fireplace. Villagers gathered in cozy nooks, their murmured conversations a gentle hum beneath the crackle of flames. Gideon stood at the far end of the room, his presence commanding yet unobtrusive. His eyes met Alara's across the distance, a silent acknowledgement that sent a shiver through her. "Alara," he called softly as she approached, his voice like velvet over stone. Gideon. She replied, unable to keep a hint of warmth from her tone. I trust you are finding your stay comfortable? His smile was enigmatic. More than comfortable. This place, it feels like home. She tilted her head, studying him. And what does home feel like to you? He considered her question carefully. A place where time loses meaning and memories weave themselves into the fabric of now. Alara nodded slowly, understanding more than his words conveyed. Eldergrove has that effect on those who listen. Their conversation drifted into silence as they watched the room together. Two souls caught in a dance neither fully understood. From across the room, Branwen Thistlewood observed them with eyes that saw beyond mortal ken. Her presence was a constant reminder of the village's mystical heart, a keeper of whispers and guardian of secrets. Later, as evening deepened into night, Alara found herself alone in her chambers above the inn. The room was a sanctuary filled with relics of her past, a tapestry of memories woven into every corner. A gentle knock interrupted her reverie. She opened the door to find Branwen standing there, an inscrutable expression on her face. May I come in? Branwen asked. Of course, Alara replied, stepping aside. Branwen entered with a grace that belied her years. There is something you must know, she began, her voice low and resonant. Alara's heart quickened at the gravity in Branwen's tone. What is it? Branwen reached into her cloak and produced a small vial filled with shimmering liquid. This contains visions, a glimpse beyond what is seen. Alara hesitated, uncertainty warring with curiosity. Why bring this to me? Because you stand at a crossroads, Branwen said softly. Gideon's presence has awakened something within you, and within this village. Alara took the vial, its weight both tangible and symbolic. What will I see? Only what your heart is ready to accept. Branwen replied cryptically. As Branwen departed, Alara remained by the window, clutching the vial tightly. Outside, the mist continued its timeless dance over Eldergrove. With a deep breath, she uncorked the vial and drank its contents, a decision made not with reason but with instinct. The world around her shifted subtly as visions unfurled before her eyes, glimpses of past and future intertwined in an eternal waltz. She saw faces long gone and moments yet to come. She felt emotions that transcended words. And through it all was Gideon, a figure at once familiar and alien, his presence both comforting and unsettling. When reality returned to its rightful place, Alara found herself breathless, her heart racing with newfound clarity and purpose. The night stretched on outside her window, a canvas painted with shadows and light, a reminder that some mysteries were meant to be embraced rather than solved. In this twilight world, where love defied boundaries and secrets lingered like ghosts among cobblestones, Alara knew she stood on the precipice of something profound. With renewed resolve burning brightly within her soul, she whispered into the night, I am ready. Chapter 5. The morning mist clung to Eldergrove like a silken shawl, weaving through the cobblestone streets and wrapping the village in a hushed anticipation. Alara Morrigan stood at the window of the Eldergrove Inn, her gaze lost in the fog that danced outside. The familiar scent of lavender tea mingled with the earthy aroma of the inn's aged wood, creating a comforting cocoon around her. Yet, her thoughts were far from tranquil. Alara, came a voice from the doorway, soft yet resonant. Lysandra Hawthorne stepped into the room, her presence as commanding as the swirling mists outside. Her eyes, sharp and knowing, met Alara's with an unspoken understanding. Lysandra, Alara replied, turning from the window. You're up early. The spirits are restless, Lysandra said, her voice tinged with an edge of concern. I felt them stirring before dawn. Alara nodded, a shadow crossing her face. Gideon's arrival has unsettled more than just us, it seems. Lysandra moved closer, her footsteps barely audible on the wooden floor. He's not just a traveler, Alara. There's something otherworldly about him. Alara sighed, the weight of unspoken truths pressing against her chest. I know. It's like he's awakened something in this place, and in me. Lysandra placed a gentle hand on Alara's arm. You must be careful, my friend. The heart can lead us to places where logic cannot follow. A small smile played on Alara's lips, though it didn't reach her eyes. And yet, it's those very places that make life worth living, don't you think? Lysandra chuckled softly. Perhaps, but tread lightly, for the path is fraught with shadows. Their conversation was interrupted by the soft creak of the inn's front door. Gideon entered, his silhouette framed by the pale morning light. His presence was magnetic, drawing attention like moths to a flame. "Good morning," he greeted, his voice smooth and rich as dark velvet. Alara turned to him, her heart skipping a beat at the sight of his enigmatic smile. "Morning, Gideon. Did you sleep well?" He nodded, though there was a hint of weariness in his eyes. "Well enough, though dreams kept me company through the night." Lysandra watched him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Dreams can be powerful guides or deceptive sirens. Gideon met her gaze steadily. "And which do you believe mine to be?" "That," Lysandra replied cryptically, "depends on what your heart seeks." The inn's common room began to stir with life as villagers trickled in for their morning tea and conversation. The atmosphere was alive with murmurs and laughter, yet there was an undercurrent of tension that seemed to pulse beneath the surface. Alara excused herself to tend to her duties as innkeeper, leaving Gideon and Lysandra alone for a moment. The silence between them was charged with unspoken questions. "You intrigue me," Lysandra finally said, her tone both challenging and inviting. Gideon arched an eyebrow. "In what way?" "You walk between worlds," she replied simply. "I can sense it." He smiled faintly, a shadow of mystery lingering in his expression. "And you? What world do you walk between?" Lysandra's eyes sparkled with a wisdom born of years spent listening to whispers only she could hear. "I am but a guide for those who seek understanding." Their conversation was cut short by Alara's return, carrying a tray laden with steaming mugs of tea. She set it down on the table between them, her movements graceful and practiced. "Tea?" she offered, breaking the tension with her warm hospitality. Gideon accepted a mug with gratitude. "Thank you, Alara." As they sipped their tea, the room filled with the soothing hum of conversations interwoven with the crackling of the fireplace. Outside, the mist began to lift, revealing glimpses of the village beyond. Branwen Thistlewood entered then, her presence like a breath of fresh air infused with ancient magic. Her raven-black hair cascaded over her shoulders, contrasting starkly with her porcelain skin. "Branwen," Alara greeted warmly. "What brings you here this morning?" Branwen's eyes flickered towards Gideon before returning to Alara. "I've come to speak of dreams and shadows." Gideon listened intently as Branwen spoke in riddles and parables, each word laden with layers of meaning that seemed to echo through the room. "The village feels different," Branwen mused aloud. "A shift in the air, an awakening." Alara exchanged a glance with Lysandra, both women acutely aware of the truth in Branwen's words. Gideon leaned forward slightly. "And what does this awakening mean for Eldergrove?" Branwen's gaze held his for a moment longer than necessary, as if searching for something hidden deep within him. "It means change is coming," she said softly. "For all of us." The weight of her words hung in the air long after she had spoken them. As the day wore on, Alara found herself drawn to Gideon with an intensity she couldn't quite explain. Their interactions were charged with an electric tension that danced on the edge of comprehension. Each exchange peeling back layers of personal histories fraught with love and longing. Later that evening, as twilight descended upon Eldergrove once more, Alara found herself standing beside Gideon on the inn's porch. The mist had returned, wrapping the village in its ethereal embrace. "Do you ever wonder," Gideon asked quietly, "what lies beyond this world we see?" Alara considered his question carefully before replying. "Every day," she admitted softly. "It's what keeps me here, seeking answers in the unknown." Gideon nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's why our paths have crossed." Their eyes met then, a silent acknowledgement of something profound and unspoken passing between them. In that moment, amidst shadows and secrets, Alara felt her heart open to possibilities she had long since thought impossible. Yet even as hope blossomed within her chest, a fragile bud unfurling amidst uncertainty, the specter of danger loomed ever closer. Its presence a reminder that love could defy boundaries only if they dared embrace its risks together. As night fell over Eldergrove once more, a hush descended upon its cobblestone streets, whispers carried by unseen winds weaving tales both old and new into its storied fabric. And somewhere within those whispered stories, Alara knew, lay their future waiting patiently for them both to discover its truths beneath layers yet unwritten by time's hand. Thank you for listening to my ghostwriter.